Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Ashtatarashata Shishimad His Divine Grace Abhay Chandaravindra Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagavan Ki Jai Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande Hare Hare Bo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto number 4, Chapter 18, Prithu Maharaj milks the earth planet. Text 15 to 17. 15's on the board, so we'll chant 15 and then we'll go after that. Kritva vatsam suragana Kritva vatsam suragana Indram somam aduduhan Indram somam aduduhan Hiranmayena patrena Viryam ojo balampaya Viryam ojo balampaya Kritva vatsam suragana Idram somam aduduhan Hiranyamayena patrena Viryam ojo balampaya Kritva vatsam suragana Indram somam aduduhan Hiranmayena patrena Viryam ojo balampaya Kritva vatsam suragana Indram somam aduduhan Hiranmayena patrena Viryam ojo palampaya Kritva vatsam gurugana Hitam somam aduduhan Hiranmayena patrena Hiram ojo palampaya. Mataji's. Kritva vatsam suragana Indram somam aduduhan Hiranmayena patrena Viryam ojo balampaya Kritva vatsam suragana Indram somam aduduhan Hiranmayena patrena Viryam ojo palampaya Kritva vatsam suragana Indram somamadu duhan Hiranmayena patrena Viryamojo balampaya. Word for word, Kritva, making, Vatsam, calf, Suragana, the demigods, Indram, Indra, the king of heaven, Somam, nectar, Aduduhan, they milked out, Hiranmayena, golden, Patrena, with a pot, Viryam, mental power, Ojaha, strength of the senses, Balam, strength of the body, Payaha, milk. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Abhay Charnaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. All the demigods made Indra, the king of heaven, into a calf, and from the earth they milked the beverage Soma, which is nectar. Thus they became very powerful in mental speculation and bodily and sensual strength. Purport. In this verse, the word Soma means nectar. Soma is a kind of beverage made in the heavenly planets from the moon to the kingdoms of our demigods. From the moon to the kingdoms of the demigods in the various higher planetary systems. By drinking this Soma beverage, the demigods become more powerful mentally and increase their sensual power and bodily strength. The words Hiranmayena patrena indicate that this Soma beverage is not an ordinary intoxicating liquor. The demigods would not touch any kind of liquor, nor is Soma a kind of drug. It is a different kind of beverage available in the heavenly planets. Soma is far different from the liquors made for demoniac people, as explained in the next verse. So I'll read 16, 17 and the purports. 16. Daitya dhanavad Vaisam Vatsam Praladam Asura Rishabham Vidhayaduduhan Kshiram Ayapatre Surasavam. Translation. The sons of Diti and the demons transformed Prahlad Maharaj, who was born in an Asura family, into a calf, and they extracted various kinds of liquor and beer, which they put into a pot made of iron. Purport. The demons also have their own types of beverages in the form of liquors and beers, just as the demigods use somaras for their drinking purposes. The demons born of Diti take great pleasure in drinking wine and beer. Even today, people of demoniac nature are very much addicted to liquor and beer. The name of Prahlad Maharaj is very significant in this connection, because Prahlad Maharaj was born in a family of demons as the son of Hiranyakashipu. By his mercy, the demons were and still are able to have their drinks in the form of wine and beer. The word aya, iron, is very significant. Whereas the nectarian Soma was put in a golden pot, the liquors and beers were put in an iron pot. Because the liquor and beer are inferior, they are placed in an iron pot, and because Somaras is superior, it is placed in a golden pot. Text 17. Gandharva Saraso Dukshan Patre Padma Maye Paya Vatsam Vasum Kritva Gandharvam Madhusaubhagam. Translation. The inhabitants of Gandharva and Apsaraloka made Visvavasu into a calf, and they drew the milk into a lotus flower pot. The milk took the shape of sweet musical art and beauty. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So text 15, 16 and 17. So far Prithu Maharaj, Bhumi Devi has told Prithu Maharaj that I am the cow, you bring the necessary calves and the pot, and I will provide the necessary milk. So Prabhupada explains this very nicely in a purport previously. Let's see if I can find it for you. This is text 10. In the purport, Prabhupada is saying, even though the earth's being in the shape of a cow may be taken figuratively, the meaning herein is very explicit. Just as a calf can derive milk from a cow, all living entities, including animals, birds, bees, reptiles, and aquatics, can receive their respective foods from the planet Earth, provided that human beings are not asat or adritavata, as we have previously discussed. So you can see here that reason I'm bringing up this point is that Prabhupada is saying you may take it figuratively. It may be taken figuratively, but the purpose or the meaning is given here. That just as a calf can derive milk from a cow, we can derive all our respective necessities from the earth planet. And it is all simply dependent upon the human being's use of these resources. As Prabhupada says here, all other living entities, including animals, birds, bees, reptiles, and aquatics, can receive respective fruits from the planet, provided that human beings are not asat or adritavrata. So you can understand how responsible the king had to be as being the king of all living entities, not just the human beings. Because the activities of the human beings largely dictates what Mother Earth will provide in terms of resources. So you can see here, human beings doesn't necessarily just refer to us foolish creatures on the earth planet, but also refers to the higher intelligent living entities such as the great sages and the demigods, and also the more rascals known as the demons in the lower planetary systems. So you can see also in these verses how each respective community or a group, collective or category of human beings received what they think or what they need as their basic necessity or requirements for living. So it will give you an understanding of what level of consciousness they have. For us human beings, what has Prithu Maharaj given us? He's given us herbs and grains for our subsistence on this earth planet or within this middle planetary system. The rishis, what did they get? They got Vedic literature, Vedic knowledge to purify mind and hearing. So you can understand what is the prime necessity of all the sages. It is the Vedic culture, the Vedic knowledge. That is the essence. It's not mentioned food, it's not mentioned shelter. Those things come. Prabhupada says in the story of Mrigari, when Narad Muni tells Mrigari about his possible future, then Mrigari gets scared. And Narad Muni says, break your bow and follow my instructions. And Mrigari looks at Narad Muni and says, if I break my bow, who will take care of us? And then Narad Muni says, don't fear, don't worry, that will be arranged. You just simply take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In that purport, Prabhupada says, one's source of income is not the same as one's source of maintenance. They are two separate things. One's source of income is not equal to one's source of maintenance. Your source of income, Prabhupada says, may be your boss, may be your supervisor. They give you the money. But the source of maintenance is Krishna. He is the one who dictates whether you can use that money for your own basic requirements or not. You can be given money, but how you use that money, that is completely determined or dependent on one's consciousness. And Krishna controls our consciousness based on our desires in our previous lives. Therefore, we have what is called as the three modes of material nature. The three modes of material nature, they dictate how we act in life. So we may be given so much wealth, but we may not be even able to take care of ourselves properly. Right? For example, we have... Anyway, I won't go down that path. We'll have people who are so rich, right? They have so much money, but they don't even know how to take care of themselves properly. They don't even have the basic maintenance because they're so engaged, engrossed in making more and more money. So the source of income is not the source of one's maintenance. One can have no income and still be maintained. So it's not dependent on money. It's simply dependent on Krishna. Right? Prahlad Maharaj says money is sweeter than honey, because that's the illusory nature of material existence. But if we understand that it is not money that makes the world go round, rather it's Krishna's energy and Krishna's desire that makes the world go round. And unfortunately, or fortunately, this material world is created so that we'll go back home, back to Godhead. So Krishna will satisfy the desires in such a way that we'll never want them again. And for those foolish living entities that don't learn from the mistake, they have to learn the hard way. Again and again and again, they get whipped by material nature. Okay, so you can see here, the source of maintenance, source of income is totally different things. For us human beings, herbs and grains sustains our existence, the foundation. For the sages, they've given the Vedic literature. And we also benefit from each other's milk or resources, right? It's not just the sages that benefit from, right? The sages benefit from the grains and herbs by performing yajna, right? And their own subsistence. So as a human being as a whole, we're benefiting from everything that's being milked from the earth. But you can see here, certain living entities are giving certain types of milk. So you can see what's in the consciousness, what is it that they want to get from the earth that will benefit human society. The next one, the Devatas, they are milking the earth for what? Soma. Soma is considered to be is considered a nectar. Or as you know, we do often hear elixir. A beverage or a liquid that will increase one's longevity. Right? We hear so much in our, at least if you're from the background of Vedic culture, you'll hear so many stories of how the demigods and the demons fought over Soma, the Amrit. You'll see them fighting over, what is it? I think it was Bali Maharaj. Yeah, in that section where Bali Maharaj was fighting Indra and he won. One of the concerns Indra had was what? No more Soma. In fact, I think it's when they churned the milk ocean, the whole core problem that they had was that they were fighting each other, there was no victor. So they wanted to finish it off once and for all. And what came out of churning? Soma in the end. And that was the cause of their dissension, and eventually the demigods drank the Soma and became much more stronger in terms of their mental and physical prowess. So this Soma, as Prabhupada says, is not just a liquor that makes them intoxicated. Often we'll hear, Indra is in his palace, surrounded by wonderful apsaras doing performances, and he'll be drinking his wine, and his eyes will be rolling in ecstasy and that sort of stuff. But that's not the intoxicating liquor that's being mentioned. They enjoy Somaras because that's that's part of the enjoyment of the heavenly planetary system. It's not a liquor. It doesn't have a negative effect on the body either. What happens when one drinks liquors, beers, wine? After some time one becomes sick. The liver can no longer handle such toxins in the body, the toxins rather in the body, right? And then one becomes very sickly. One gets a hangover, for example, for the next day, and so on and so forth. Whereas one takes this Soma beverage, when one takes this Soma beverage, there's no negative effect. What is the effect that's given instead? More powerful mentally and increased essential power and bodily strength. But also we must mention that even though this Soma beverage seems to be quite pleasurable, it seems to be like, yeah, this is what we want in life. You have to understand that this Soma beverage increased essential power and bodily strength. When one's sensual power is increased, one is more agitated in consciousness. You see all the pure devotees of the Lord, they pray for pure devotional service. Dhruva Maharaj, for example, what's one of the benedictions he got from the Supreme Lord? You will rule this earth with full sensual power and prowess. And what did they use that for? Simply glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Simply by performing more and more yajna. They were clear in mind because they knew what needs to be done. And the senses that they were able to get, they simply engaged that back in Krishna's service. Right? But even having that, what did they feel? Dhruva Maharaj, for example, he felt, I made a big mistake. Instead of going back home, back to Godhead, I desired a kingdom in this material world. So even he understands, even though having sensual prowess may be beneficial in one's service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, you're walking on a razor's edge. It's a very, very dangerous path to follow unless one is very spiritually powerful. Because the problem is, the more and more one becomes absorbed in material existence, the more and more one is unable to discriminate between matter and spirit. Spiritual Life 101. The difference between matter and the difference between spirit. The more one becomes entangled, one assumes that, yes, this is what I need for my service, this is what I need for my spiritual life. But due to having a clouded intelligence, Krishna doesn't become the center of one's life, the center of, or the picture, in the picture. What happens? One starts seeing everything else except Krishna because of the illusory energy. So, is this Soma beverage very beneficial? Is it really what we want in life? We don't want to drink Somaras. We want to drink Namras. We want to drink the holy name, the nectar of the holy name. That's what we want to drink. We want to drink Bhakti Ras. We want to drink the nectarian beverage of serving Krishna. It's mentioned that Srimati Radharani experiences great pleasure in drinking Bhakti Ras. And what is her mood of service? That if whatever I'm doing gives Krishna displeasure, although it may be pleasurable for me, it gives me great displeasure. But if I do something that gives me displeasure but gives pleasure to Krishna, that is the source of my pleasure. This is the Bhakti Ras. And we mustn't mistake this to be some ordinary material platform dealing that, you love, say for example, eating something so much that you get sick of it, and then you give a gap, and then you come back and this tastes so good, why did I give it up? It's nothing like that. It's not like this gap of trying to enjoy material nature through suffering. Right? It's not like that. The so-called distress of the spiritual world gives pleasure, and the pleasure of the spiritual world also gives pleasure. It's of the same category. Absolute truth. It's spiritual. But for the sake of transcendental pastimes, Srimati Radharani and Krishna and the other gopis experience this separation and this union to increase. And it's mentioned, they don't have to do anything. Sri Krishna simply has to look at the gopis, and the gopis feel extremely happy, blissful. And by seeing the beauty of the gopis increase by that happiness, Krishna's beauty increases. And then the gopis become even more happy. So this is the nature of spiritual existence. It increases again and again and again. Whereas you see here, this so-called pleasure of Somaras gives the demigods more and more headaches. Why? You can see in the pastimes of Garuda. Garuda came and stole the pot of nectar. The demigods constantly get chastised or attacked by the demons. There's never peaceful situation completely in the spiritual world. You think by enjoying in the heavenly planets you'll be happy and peaceful? They're constantly being tortured and tormented by the devotees. By the demons. They're constantly thinking or being attacked that when will these demons come and take. Indra's constantly on the lookout to see who's going to take his position. He's enjoying, and you'll see later on in this next chapter, when Prithu Maharaj performs his 100 horse sacrifices. Indra, he left his position of enjoyment just to disturb the sacrifice. Why? Because he did not want his enjoyment to be disturbed in the future. So is that not disturbance? Is that not anxiety? Is that not such a miserable situation? It is. So what is the point of enjoying Somaras then? Better we enjoy Bhakti Ras, the pleasure of Sevananda, the bliss of serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead and His devotees. That's what should be the core essence or the core motive in our existence, simply to serve the Lord and the devotees. Is it wrong to want to experience some sort of pleasure? No. What's wrong is to want to experience pleasure for oneself. We should transform that consciousness, that thought, to wanting to give pleasure to Krishna alone. You see, the gopis are the standard power of devotional service. They're the topmost devotees of the Lord. And what's their mood? That they're always constantly thinking about pushing pleasure onto Krishna. They don't want anything. And what's Krishna's prerogative? What's Krishna's prime motive when dealing with the gopis? That he's so obliged to them, he's forcing them, pleasure upon them, even though they don't want it. And the point here is that it's not, again, we shouldn't have our material consciousness contaminating this understanding of the spiritual world. That when someone forces something upon someone else, they'll feel like, I don't want it, that sort of thing. No, it's a way of explaining how the gopis experience pleasure by giving pleasure to Krishna. And Krishna's not a miser, he gives pleasure back. And such is a relationship, it's reciprocative. It's a reciprocation between two people, two individuals. Okay, so that's somaras. And Prabhupada's explaining here that it's not a liquor, rather it's a beverage. It's just a drink. Okay. In text 16, there are 2 points being mentioned here. The sons of Diti and the demons transformed Prahlad Maharaj, who's born in an Asura family, into a calf. And they extracted various kinds of liquor and beer, which they put into a pot made of iron. Prabhupada's making a point, 3 points here. One is that what the demons are seeking is a imitation of what the demigods are seeking, but completely in the mode of ignorance. Okay? It's useless. It has no positive effect. Just simply a hallucination that comes from drinking. They think that they're enjoying, right? When one is in complete distress, what does one do in the material world generally? One in the mode of ignorance tries to forget that distress. And one of the methods in which they try to forget their distress is their weekly, Friday night pub crawl. Right? To forget the miseries of the week. Right? Sometimes it's daily. Like when we were doing book distribution, I remember when we were going into the rural towns, like practically everyone had a slab outside their house. $70, $80 worth of beer just sitting outside on their front veranda. And, you'd go and tell them to take a book and, meditation helps you get rid of stress. And he goes, I got me beer, I don't need no meditation, I got me beer. So such people, you talk to them, some of them say, look, I've got like 7 kids. By the time I finish buying things for them, then after that, I've got to take care of the dog. And then all the money goes in the food for the dog, and all I've got left is money for my beer. Right? And why? Because they work so hard. What are their occupations generally? Construction worker, miner, truck driver, right? It's not easy jobs. Always constantly squeezed. Energy is squeezed. Physical energy is squeezed out of you. They come home tired, right? Then they have to deal with family, the rest of the family life. Both men and women, by the way. Right? I remember going, when we passed these mining towns, there's no gender discrimination. Both of them, male or female, they're either truck drivers, miners, construction workers, and they go through the same ordeal. And all of them sit down for their beer to forget the rest of the day's hard labor. Right? They work so hard, and then they drink the liquor. Yeah, life is perfect. Right? They work their whole life. The whole day is in complete agony, miserable situation. And they live for the last couple of hours of the day just to drink their beer. Same thing if it's a little bit more, human, end of the week. Right? So, this is the nature of the demons. This is what demons do. They exist simply to try and forget material miseries and try to increase material happiness. And we know it's not possible. Right? As Narad Muni tells, and as Prahlad Maharaj explains, that why do you endeavor so hard for material happiness and distress? Right? You don't endeavor for distress, do you? But distress comes of its own accord. So why do you endeavor so hard for material happiness? Because it also comes of its own accord. But the demons don't care for this. The demons neglect this. You only live once. You only live once, right? So what do? Invest everything you can in your senses. Full sense, burn your senses out in sense gratification, right? So this is the nature of the demons. To the extent that they used Prahlad Maharaj to get their liquor. One side you can see, without a devotee, even they cannot enjoy. Without some pious living entity, the demons cannot enjoy. Okay? In fact, you see the demons, they understand this. What did Hiranyakashipu do to enjoy in life? He performed tapasya. What did Bali Maharaj do? He worshipped the Brahmanas. And those Brahmanas weren't in the mode of goodness, so to speak. Right? What were they doing the sacrifices for? Remuneration. They were looking for something from the king after they were done. Sukracharya, for example. He stopped Bali Maharaj. What was one of the reasons he stopped Bali Maharaj from worshipping Vishnu? Right? If you give everything away, what about me? I'm serving you. My whole life, my family is dependent on you. What about me? So you can see how that association completely corrupts the consciousness. Ravana was a Brahmana. But then when he saw Shiva enjoying, and he saw the opportunities available by worshipping Shiva in enjoyment, he completely flipped. He completely flipped to the extent that he wanted to take even Parvati away from Lord Shiva. He was a Brahmana, and this is what happened to him by demoniac association. Narakasur, the son of Varahadev and Bhumi Devi, it's mentioned due to the association of Bhanasur and other demons, he became such a great asura. You know, he was a good boy, but by bad association, he became a demon. Right? So, you can see here, the basis on which we enjoy material existence still stems from worshipping Krishna to some extent. So, the point here is that Prabhupada mentions that because Prahlad Maharaj was associated with them just simply because of his family lineage, being born, by his mercy the demons have or were and are still able to have their drinks in the form of wine and beer. So how to understand this? Right? Because of a devotee, there's wine and beer existent in this material world. How to understand this? You can go to the extent, because of Krishna, all of these material enjoyment is present. How is that? Can anyone answer? How is it compassion if it entangles the living entity more and more? So let us keep them in the jail longer. How is that compassion? Yeah? Yeah, so what is punishment for? To rectify the sinful or the criminal mentality. And if they don't learn, the punishment becomes worse and worse and worse, till the extent they figure it out that they shouldn't do it again. So these facilities are available for the living entities because they desire it and Krishna is allowing them. But Krishna's plan is always supreme. They may be enjoying this material existence, but they won't be able to enjoy it for long. The nature of material existence is to frustrate the living entities. You won't be able to enjoy material existence forever. So, in one sense, it is Krishna's way of bringing even the most stubborn materialists back to him. Right? What happens when a child is being naughty? When a child is not following, what do? You bribe the child, right? Here's some candy. Now do this properly. If you do this, you'll get this. Right? I remember when I was young, I'd hate shopping, but my mother would take me shopping and say, I'll get you a milkshake, I'll get you this, I'll get you that. Right? So it's the same principle. That to bring someone, like an animal, sorry to say, but an animal, how does the donkey move forward? How is the donkey forced to act for the benefit of the washerman? Even though there's grass everywhere, what happens? It dangles, the carrot is dangled in front of it. And what does the donkey think? That is the only way. So in the same way, one goes from this very low level of existence, that how do I get this wine, beer, and enjoyment? I have to work. And by working, then I'll get the money to be able to enjoy. And gradually one becomes elevated. Somehow or other by the association of devotees, one comes to the platform, if I do work and do my prescribed duties, then I understand that material nature provide whatever I need. And gradually, one will come to the point of worshipping Krishna directly. And you see this animal mentality in those who don't study Vedic Shastra from the proper, bona fide sampradaya. Prabhupada explains, first canto of Bhagavatam, that in the section of the incarnations of Krishna, where he starts to speak about Buddha's incarnation, in that purport, Prabhupada says, when living entities stop following the Guru Parampara or a proper lineage that teach the Vedic culture as per the Guru Parampara, one begins to speculate and become swept away by the flowery words of the Vedas. In other words, one simply goes from why am I existing, what is Atata Brahma Jignasa, one goes from that broad-minded consciousness to a very narrow-minded consciousness, to the extent, how can I go to the demigods' planets to enjoy Somaras? The purpose of the Vedas is simply to enjoy the senses. You perform the sacrifice, when you get the result, you enjoy. Or you perform the sacrifice and you enjoy in your next life. See, their eyes are completely clouded by flowery language of the Vedas. So there you can understand that these so-called enjoyments are like bribes, or in one sense, dangling in front of the living entity to force them to go into the right path. But as Yayati Maharaj explains, that after enjoying so much with his wife in so many planetary systems, he comes, 1,000 years have passed, he explains to his wife that evam varsha sahasrani manasaster manah dukham, that even though we enjoyed for 1,000 years with full senses enjoyment, unfortunately, this kadindriya, these blunt material senses, we're still not happy. We've enjoyed for 1,000 years, still we're not happy. We're still not satisfied. So what does that mean? Is those 1,000 years successful? Was it useful? No. Like even if we see now, if we waste 1 hour, on phone or a laptop or talking prajalpa, after that 1 hour, what do you feel? Successful? You think, what? I've wasted 1 hour. If only I had invested that 1 hour in something like chanting, reading, taking darshan, how much I could have advanced. Right? So that natural repentance, the natural beating the mind gives us back, that's part of us going back onto the right track. With proper training, proper self-control, naturally one is able to go back home, back to Godhead gradually, very slowly. So there you can see, the mercy of Pralama of the devotees come also in this way. In an indirect way, but a very managed way by Krishna. Okay? So, Prahlad Maharaj's mercy, the demons got liquor, okay? The pots. Liquor is in iron pot, Somaras is in a golden pot. Prabhupada's making the point, you can see what's the difference between gold, what's the difference between iron, right? How great gold is, and what should be kept in gold, and what useless iron is, and what's kept in iron. Later on, you'll see that the demons in the forms of bhutas, the ghosts, hobgoblins, they'll get a skull and they'll get blood from Mother Earth. So you can see how useless that pot is. Yeah? But then in the end, Prabhupada gives the example, wet stool, dry stool. What is the difference? Right? What is the difference? Wet stool or dry stool? Stool is stool. What is the difference of a golden prison and a prison with iron bars? A prison is a prison. There's a story Prabhupada gives of how one Brahmana couple, very chaste wife and her husband, but unfortunately the husband wasn't very beautiful, and he was lame. He had some problems. He was disabled. So his wife would have to go out, earn a living, and then come back and take care of the husband. And it's mentioned that unfortunately this Brahmana had his eyes on the most beautiful prostitute of the village. Unfortunately, to be able to, he developed such a desire that even though his wife maintained him, took care of him in every possible way, still she noticed that he was dissatisfied. And because she was such a example of chastity, she knew exactly what is it. Just simply by seeing his behavior, she knew exactly what the problem was. So then she went and she enlisted her service in the service of this prostitute. And all she did was she just went there. Didn't ask for money, didn't ask for a job. She just simply served. And this prostitute, 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, she was thinking, who is this person rendering so wonderful service but not getting any money? So she asked, what do you want? You've rendered so much valuable service for me. What do you want? And what did the wife ask? That my husband wants to spend the night with you. And this prostitute thought about it and then said, okay, sure. And so the Brahmana was brought before the prostitute, and as part of the whole service was that she provided food, good foodstuffs. And Prabhupada explains that she provided food in many different plates, many different bowls, some gold, some iron, some different metal. And so the man ate, the Brahmana ate from all these different. And so then she asked him, so, how does this one taste? How does that one taste? And he says that this one in this pot seems to be the same as this one in that pot. And so she explains to him, you see, whether the vessel is of this quality or that quality, the enjoyment is the same. So he got schooled. He got taught by this personality. So the point Prabhupada makes in that purport is that it doesn't matter. It looks like it's valuable and enjoyable from the external point of view. But what is the substance? It is the same temporary thing. It's useless in the long run. Right? So whether it's somaras, whether it's liquor, beer, what does Prabhupada say here? Asavam, fermented liquids, or even what the Gandharvas and the Apsaras want. The milk they got in their lotus flower. Sounds wonderful, right? Sweet musical art and beauty. Temporary. Temporary. Again, temporary. So we do not need to be sidetracked by any of these things. We need to understand we're reading all of these things. This is what's being milked from the earth by all the living entities. This is what their consciousness is stuck in. So we don't want those bodies. We don't want to come back. Because if you come back and if you're in a particular body of a particular society or species, your consciousness will be absorbed in trying to get these things. What do the Gandharvas and Apsaras want? They want beauty and musical art. Do you want that? Is that what you exist for? That's not going to satisfy us because we'll continue to be fish out of water. Rather, we should understand that Bhumi Devi is able to provide all necessities for living entities to exist in this material world. Prabhupada says if everyone on this planet was devotees, material nature or Bhumi Devi would provide all necessities to the extent it would be Vaikuntha. Isn't that what Vaikuntha is? All necessities, all resources at the disposal of the devotees, right? Chintamani, Kalpa Vriksha. What are they? Chintamani means you can get anything, you touch the stone, it will become a valuable gold, right? What's the use in the spiritual world? It's mentioned in Vrindavan that the dust and the rocks are all Chintamani jewels. The dust and the rocks are Chintamani jewels. Right? And the trees, they're Kalpa Vriksha trees. You can get anything from them. The classic joke, you can get puris even from the trees. Right? Prabhupada explains, you'll get puris, samosas, anything you like from these trees. Isn't that a way of explaining how the spiritual world provides all resources for the living entities? It's mentioned Brihad Bhagavatamrita, when all the inhabitants of Vaikuntha, right? When Gopakumar comes to the border, it's like a port where you see all these airplanes dock, and suddenly the Vaikunthavasi will come out of the plane. And how they want to serve Vaikunthanath, they will change their body accordingly. They'll change their facilities. They may have came to Vaikuntha with all of these paraphernalia, all of these devotees, all of family members, right? All of these opulences. They can just retract that within their body and enter the gates of Vaikuntha as humble beggars. Or they may appear as a particular personality. They can change their form to a four-handed form equivalent to the appearance of Lord Vishnu and enter. They can enter with great pomp, feeling that I am a servant of Vaikuntanath. And they'll enter like that with that mood of service. Isn't that getting all resources at your disposal? What do you think? Isn't that? But what is their mood? These resources are for Krishna. And Krishna is happy to provide whatever is required. Then Krishna feels, I can reciprocate with my devotee. There's a relationship with my devotee now. Just like as a father, the child, it's Father's Day or Mother's Day, Christmas, whatever it may be. How does the child get money to buy the present? From the parents, right? And then what does the child do? Go and buy something and give it to the parents. What? You think the parents is in need of some socks, some toothpaste, some, what are they, bathrobes or something like that? No. But what is it that the parents enjoy? The parents enjoy that loving reciprocation, that I gave the child this much, they have spent it back on me. Right? But nowadays, who knows how much is spent back on the parents? The change is used in candy or something, who knows? Right? But that's the mood of devotee. And that's the mood of Krishna. This person, this devotee, is fully thinking of my service. So let me give whatever resources they need to be able to engage in my service. Because I fully trust them. And what is trust a component of? Relationship. Trust is part of a relationship with Krishna. If you want to become trustworthy, what should you do? Come on. If you want to become trustworthy in a relationship, what should you do? What should you do to earn trust? Never break it. You simply follow and engage in service in such a way, as Prabhupada explains, Caesar's wife should be beyond all suspicion. In other words, you should perform activities in such a way with that one consciousness, one persona, one thought, that this is for Krishna. In that way, you'll become so trustworthy to Krishna that Krishna will give whatever you need to be able to propagate his movement. And that's what we want, right? We want to bring so many more. The core essence of our service is to bring as many people to Krishna's service, Krishna's lotus feet. Like Radha Gopinath have come to this material world to reclaim the fallen conditioned souls. We shouldn't forget that. Mahaprabhu has appeared, why? To reclaim the fallen conditioned souls. Because that's what Advaita Acharya called him for. Right? Of course, there are many other purposes that Mahaprabhu fulfilled by taking up or adventing in this material world. But the core essence is to bring as many people to Krishna's service. So we need to see in our day, how much is our service leading to that goal of assisting Krishna, Srimati Radharani, assisting Shri Radha Gopinath and Mahaprabhu in bringing people closer to Krishna, bringing closer to their lotus feet. How much? What is it? Are we investing in something so that it will produce a result to bring people more? Or is it something we can immediately do? How can we do both? So if you want to take anything away from these three verses, is that we shouldn't become too enamored by material existence, because we'll just simply get a body that will be hankering after these simple things of soma, liquor, beauty, art. But rather we want all of these things, whatever body we may get, to be able to engage it in Krishna's service. That's all. Okay? That's all we want. And we should be very careful in our sadhana and our practice of devotional service that we won't be carried away. We won't get carried away with the resources. We should always keep chanting and hearing as the core essence of our existence. The moment we stop chanting and hearing, you can understand it is out of pride that we think we can exist in Krishna consciousness. Because it is by chanting and hearing that's brought us to this position. And it's by chanting and hearing that will take us back to Godhead. The moment we sacrifice a little bit of that and think we can go on in Krishna consciousness, that is pride. Because Krishna is the one who's providing the resources, simply on the strength of your relationship with him at that point of time. Okay? So I'll end here. Are there maybe one question I can take and I'll finish? No questions? Okay, thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Shri